I was sitting at the bar and I was having a beer or two, and I was sitting there and I was watching my son play on Game Changer. And when Game Changer just was like a dot running around the bases. And and I looked to the left and there was another dad doing that. And then I looked to the right and there was another dad doing that.
At Untap, we do a lot of personal development around improving your marriage, your health. And one of the things that seems to happen a lot is we get a lot of these addictive personalities that come into the program.
I looked at myself and I was like, one, I don't need to be sitting at the bar doing this. I don't need to be dependent on alcohol to get me through this flight home.
What are you doing that no one knows about that helps you feel good that like you wouldn't share with your children or your wife or your partner, right? And those are the things, like that's when you know you have a problem, is when you're hiding.
It gives me free reign to kind of do whatever I want, whenever I want, without having to hold myself back.
Welcome to the Untap Your Sales Potential podcast. I'm so glad you're listening because I'm going to bring you real stories from sellers who have gone from average performance to elite by mastering their mindset, habits, and selling skills. These are all sellers that I've coached and I've watched them transform their lives, and they're going to share exactly what they changed to become elite. So if you're not getting the results you want, if you know you can do better, if you're frustrated and you're not sure what to do, listen up, because these sellers are going to share the exact playbook that they learned and used to become top performers. Can't wait to dive in. All right, everyone. So I am more excited about this conversation than I am about any other podcast guest that I've had. And that's not because he went and made $1 million and crushed every sale. I think you guys have heard a lot of these stories by now. But what I want to highlight is how someone can change their personal life. And at Untap, we do a lot of personal development around improving your marriage, your health. And one of the things that seems to happen a lot is we get a lot of these addictive personalities that come into the program, and they tend to struggle with alcohol or weed or whatever vice, you name it, they got it. And it's like preventing them from performing their best or, becoming their best version of themselves. And so today what we're going to talk about is actually how to become the version of yourself that you're proud of. And I think this will resonate with a lot of people. Ed Wakefield, I had a call with him a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about purpose, and we were talking about what's next for him. And he shared a story with me, and it was so powerful that I thought it was worth sharing with everyone. And his story is how he got sober on his own and what his operating rhythm is to be able to take this addictive personality and channel it into things that actually create abundance and help him have better connections with his family and be more secure in his identity. And I just think this is such an important conversation. So let's dive in. Ed, thanks for coming on. Really great to have you, man.
Likewise, Ian. This is something that we spent some time talking about, and I'm really proud of the work we've done and the work we're going to continue to do in this together. So appreciate you having me on.
I am thrilled, and let's dive right in. So I want just give people background, who you are, maybe where you work, just a little context. How old are you, family, anything you want to share just before we dive into the good stuff.
Yeah, sure. My name's Ed Wakefield. I'm currently in the Bay Area, San Jose, California. I've been in various forms of B2B sales for the last 15 years or so. I sold, like you, I sold Ricoh copiers for close to a decade. I started my sales career just, putting a suit on, watching YouTube videos on how to tie a tie. And
why the hell do they make us wear suits in the copier sales? It's like traumatic. I never want to touch another suit in my life.
I looked about 14 when I was 23, so it helps with a little bit of the professionalism. But I learned quite a bit from that experience, and learned how to sell and lead teams, and did that for about a decade. And then moved over into the SaaS industry about 2020. Copiers were a great industry for me. Like yourself, we had a really good run in it, and then had an opportunity to move over to Salesforce and manage some enterprise accounts, and manage quite a bit of different types of companies there, and had a lot of success just learning how to run enterprise businesses, and recently moved to a new role over at Anaplan, which I've been at since the beginning of the year. So I'm pretty well versed in all types of different sales, and uh, I've got my two sons. I got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my wife and I have been married about 10 years. So we're going through it together here day in and day out.
And you're still in the Bay Area?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome, man. California, baby. There's the big game. Was it? I think it's the U.S. The U.S. is playing the World Cup in Santa Clara coming
What's
up
what
for the
next week? Next
round
week,
of
yeah.
32.
It'll be the biggest. I think it'll be the biggest American soccer game we've ever had in the United States, which will be
Yeah, it's pretty
pretty cool
cool.
to be
We've
around.
had a bunch around SoFi. I'm literally a few minutes not far from SoFi, and it's been fever over here. So that'll be fun. Well, I want to just let's dive in just from the very beginning. So you had success. You had everything that you could ask for, right? A nice wife, a family. Went from copiers to software. You made a President's Club at Salesforce. Um, Tell me kind of what was going on at the personal side, even though you had what seemingly seemed like a very good life. I know the personal side was a struggle. I'd love for people to understand what your world was like. I guess prior to joining Untap and going through this journey that you've been on, this personal sobriety journey, kind of describe what life was like between the ears and what was going on in your head.
Yeah, I've always been a very competitive person. I was an athlete all the way through until they told me I wasn't good enough to play anymore at the end of college, and kind of had to reinvent myself, using kind of that competitiveness and taking it to my professional career, which was sales. So year over year over year after year, I would set new benchmarks for myself from a professional standpoint, and from a personal standpoint, for that matter, of always wanting to build on what I did before, whether it be income or performance or taking a new promotion or taking a new opportunity, and I kind of had that as my identity, until until I had two children, right? I had two kids. I had my first kid in 2018, and I had my second kid in 2020. And I find myself starting to have a little bit of conflicting priorities on what's pulling me in different directions. I had my wife, I had my kids. I had that desire to be competitive and win in business, and it got kind of increasingly hard to balance that as the kids got older and there were more responsibilities and there were more things that I wanted to do with my family and my wife. And there were more things at work that were more challenging. I moved into larger roles, and I moved into managing larger accounts and things that required more of me. So there was this perpetual growth of trying to balance raising expectations of myself in all three areas of life,
Mm,
versus what got me to that point, which was more expectations of myself just personally and holding myself to a standard. And it kept building and kept building and kept building, until I got to the point where I could actually acknowledge, that I was struggling with I was struggling to balance all of it. I had not I was not spending the time with my wife and my kids that I wanted to. My work, I was getting pulled away from where I wanted to be. Basically, when I was on the road at work, I wanted to be home. When I was at home, I was thinking about work. And there was this really hard balance to do so. And I would turn to unproductive things like alcohol and things like that just kind of got in the way of actually being able to handle that. And I think that all kind of came to a head, a few years ago when I was traveling quite a bit for work and really developed a dependency on this that I couldn't manage anymore. So all that built together kind of built up to where we had to make a change and really look at ourselves seriously.
So was there a turning point where you realized you were dependent on these unhealthy coping mechanisms, specifically alcohol, where it started? I don't know why I'm smiling, but it's because I see myself in your story, I think, and it's nice to see you come out so much stronger. But did you hit a rock bottom, or when did you realize like you had a problem, and what happened?
I think it was. I think there's a couple elements of this story. I think the primary driver of this was not a rock bottom necessarily, but it was kind of a shift of prioritization and a really serious look at myself. Um, I was traveling quite a bit and I was multiple time zones away. And when you go on a trip like this, you're with the customer all day and you're tired and you just want to go home. And the first thing you want to do is you go to the airport and you go to the bar, right? That's where you go. And so I was coming home from a trip to visit a client and I went to the bar. Ian, I don't know if your kids play team. Do your kids play team sports?
My youngest is in t-ball. My oldest loves individual sports, rock climbing, swimming, golf, but my youngest is in t-ball and he's
I
playing
know.
soccer in the fall too.
I know we talked about this. So when your young one gets older, there'll be this application called Game Changer,
Yeah, I've been on Game Changer
which
all the
they
time.
manage
Yeah.
baseball stats, and like it's a whole big thing in your local leagues. And I was sitting at the bar and I was having a beer or two, and I was sitting there and I was watching my son play on Game Changer. And when Game Changer just is like a dot running around the bases. Um, and and I looked to the left and there was another dad doing that. And then I looked to the right and there was another dad doing that. And we're sitting there, drinking beers 2,000 miles away, um, chasing business, and kind of not prioritizing what's super important to us. And I looked at myself and I was like, one, I don't need to be sitting at the bar doing this. I don't need to be dependent on alcohol to get me through this flight home. And maybe more importantly, there are things that I need to be present for when I get home. When I get home, I need to be in the best condition I can be, in the best state I can be, to be with my kids, to be with my wife, to be with my community. And that kind of got my head moving around the changes that I wanted to make in my life. That I don't need to be missing things literally from a physical standpoint, but I also want to be in as good a shape as I can be to be with my family. So the ability to eliminate things like that kind of started thinking in my mind, and I started thinking of different ways I could do it. Um, and different things that were more important to me. So not necessarily the rock bottom in that sense, but there were some triggers to me that got me going, and then it kind of built from there as far as the lifestyle changes I wanted to make.
Anything else like, did your wife say anything or was there something that kind of happened with your health that you're like, man, this is a little out of hand?
Yeah. I mean, I reached a point where alcohol in particular was a centerpiece of what I did most every day. It was a social thing. It was a celebratory thing. It was an anxiety thing. It was a stress thing. So there were always reasons to use alcohol, whether I was by myself or whether I was with other people, whether it was with people I knew really well or didn't know at all. It was always kind of the crutch that I used to do that. And we reached a point where my wife in particular, we had some times where I'd show up, middle of the afternoon, early evening, have had too many drinks, and I'm not even close to being the version of myself that I want to be in front of her, and more importantly, around my kids. I mean, we did have a really serious, we had a really serious conversation about 18 months ago, and I took it very seriously. And ever since then, it's been a daily chore and a daily process to get that keep that under control.
Yeah. So you were coping daily, you knew it, and then she called you out and she said, "Hey, this has got to stop."
Yeah, yeah. There was a moment where we had a really hard conversation about it.
How was drinking affecting how you showed up with your family?
It's interesting that you asked that question because at the time I didn't really think about how it affected me for years and years. I think retrospectively, thinking back on how it did versus how I show up now, I don't think there was ever the best full version of myself that was present for either one of. And what I mean by that is there was always I was always under the influence of something, and I was always had something else distracting me from being where I needed to be with my kids and my family. I think there's a lot of missed memories and missed opportunities to form really meaningful moments and really meaningful experiences with my kids because like I said earlier, I was either physically somewhere else in a different part of the world chasing some business, or I was around, but I was either, beat up from that trip and what I did to myself on that trip, or something I had done more locally with my community now. So I think there's more of a void that I have from how it affected me versus this is how I am now, which is very present and I miss nothing now to kind of having some empty spaces in some of my younger years with my kids that I don't feel great about.
Well, and I want to, and first of all, thank you for sharing your testimony. I think it's more common than you might think in terms of sales and business leaders being on the road, having the pressure to perform, having family obligations. Like it's a lot. And I'll just tell you right now, whether it's alcohol, whether it's weed, whether it's gambling, whether it's being on your phone all the time, phone addiction, whether it's pornography, anything that pulls you away from the people in your life or that pulls you away from your health in presence to be able to fully show up will prevent you from reaching your potential, period. So it's not a judgment on alcohol, whether it's right or wrong. I still drink. I'm sober from pornography, but I still have a glass of wine with my wife. I enjoy it. But anything that you turn to cope on a daily basis that pulls you into isolation or to shame is something that you must remove if you want to achieve the life of your dreams, period. That
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about now. And so why do we go to these things? It's because we feel feelings that we don't want to cope with. We can't be with our feelings. We can't be with ourselves. So the minute you remove the thing that you go to, then you have to face the thing, which is you. And that's where the real work begins. And that's what I want to start to pivot to and talk about now is like, well, how do you your wife tells you this has got to stop. You take it seriously, like, oh shit, it's not just me I'm hurting, it's actually my family. So good for you for valuing your family that much to take it seriously. A lot of people don't. They're dismissive or they're in denial, but you acknowledged your wife, and good for her for calling you out and being the leader. Because your kids are going to benefit greatly. But what happens there? That's the beginning of your story. We'll take it 18 months. I want to walk through the journey of getting sober and what that really looked like for you, for anybody who's sober curious, or at least wants to maybe reduce their dependency on any substance that they might be, that's not aligned with their values. We'll just call it.
Yeah. Yeah. The most immediate action I took, and we talk about this from time to time, was there had to be a subtraction of things that I were doing that were hard to do without alcohol. And for me, that meant going to certain places. That meant like the airport is a good example, right? Like I had to continue to travel for my job. I had to continue to go to places. I had to continue to go literally walk right past the bar that I would hunker down at every day. So I joined the lounge at the airport. So it was a different change of scenery. It was a different spot. It was a different environment than what had triggered that for me historically. Same thing at home. If there was an event going on that I knew I could not go to without drinking alcohol due to just the association I had with it or what I had trained myself to do, I wouldn't do it. And I would do something else. I would find another activity that I could use to fill that in. I got really into meditation. I got really into yoga. I got really into doing different things around the house and finding different ways to fill kind of that ultimate boredom.
Was it immediately successful? I mean, did you initially try to like reduce the amount you drank, or was it like, I'm stopping entirely, I can't have one drink? Like, what was the journey like early on? I know where you ended up, and it's great, and we'll get there, but I kind of want to focus on the early days of
It
what
was
you.
very challenging. It was very challenging. So we've gone the whole time. We have not had any alcohol. I think part of the exploration that I did was I explored the different options I had um, in front of me to take care of this. And there were different treatment programs, and there were different community groups, and there were different places where I could get some help to do this. And I looked into those, and I felt like um, those weren't necessarily for me. For where I was in a point where I felt like I could really reuse my time and reuse my energy and not sacrifice that energy towards what was most important to me, which was my community and my kids and my job at the time. So those were the things that I used to propel me forward starting on that day. Was a really sudden shift in what was important and what was prioritized, with a trigger of staying away from as much as I could, whatever it took to not be in a position where I'd historically gotten myself
Did
in
it
trouble.
feel like white knuckling when you said it was really challenging? Did you have cravings for booze in those early days?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, yes, there was some cravings. There was some need to really find other ways to to fill that gap. I mean, I skipped Christmas parties, I skipped holidays, I skipped a couple of weddings. I made a pretty dramatic social change for the first period there, because of the criticalness of not putting myself in a position where I didn't trust myself to be the way that I felt I could be. So I think there was a really intentional
Yeah.
there was a really intentional move to figure out where I can and where I can't put myself
I'm
until I
just
got to
picturing
a
you
point where
saying, nope, 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 like guarding, like with your life, like protecting, like, I don't want this. Nope, nope. Just like some of
and
that.
it was a challenge with my wife and I, and you know, there were social events, and there were trips, and there were places that we went that we kind of had to be really direct about what we were trying to do here and how we were trying to improve ourselves, to where there was a period where we missed a fair amount.
So she didn't go without you. She stayed back with you if you didn't want to go.
Sometimes she'd go by herself, sometimes she'd stay back. Yeah, it kind of depended on the environment, but I was committed to putting myself in as safe a position as possible from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's an important point for anyone who wants to refrain. The best way to do it. There's a interesting quote, if I can remember it. It's what is it? Oh my gosh. It's resist. It's easier to avoid temptation than to rely on willpower to resist it. It's easier to avoid temptation entirely than to rely on your willpower to resist it. And what that means is take away the triggers that lead to, you know, um, the addiction. So in your case, the triggers were the people, the events, the bar in the airport, having booze in the house. Um, for me, the triggers were, my phone. I in my computer, I just put blockers. I literally, I decided I didn't want porn in my life in any capacity. And I'd been watching it a couple days a week for my whole life, 2 or 3 days, whatever. I didn't think twice about it, but my wife was not cool with it. And the nature of what porn had evolved to was interactive. And you see that now with these sites like OnlyFans, where you're interacting with another person. Fantasy or not, it's cheating. And my wife was very clear on that. And I had explored that. And that's what, when I found out how she felt about it, that was it. It was over. So what I did is I put blockers on my computer for any site and my phone. And if I ever went anywhere, she got a notification. She was my accountability partner and she would know about it. So I was like, okay, well, that ain't happening anymore. Unless I'm going to go cheat and buy a computer. You have to remove the thing entirely. And again, I'd highly recommend that for any men listening. It elevated my quality of relationship with my wife immensely. And I also, once I did that, I stopped getting drunk. Haven't gotten drunk in 6 years. Haven't taken Adderall. I got off Adderall. I stopped smoking weed. I stopped gambling. And it's easy to face, other addictions when you squash the main one. So I know for you and for me, when I stopped watching porn, I became more aware of other addictive behaviors that I turned to for coping. And I think that happened to you a little bit too. So maybe you can describe that journey of the awareness of, hey, this is still me seeking escape in other forms. What was that like? Because it's not just cut it off and you're healed. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it was challenging, and you mentioned that, I think the biggest example I have is if I go on vacation, I can't bring my phone, right? Because I get triggered by all the notifications of all the stuff I'm missing at work, right? And I just kind of have learned that I'm not at a point where I'm able to consciously be in a spot where I have a distraction like work when I'm supposed to be on vacation. That's kind of the version of it that I'm sitting in today. But I think for me, it was more about trying to figure out what I can find that is constructive for me. I gambled quite a bit. That was the initial direction we headed. Is okay, we're gonna do sports betting.
I'll stop drinking, but I'm going to the sports betting apps.
We're gonna go on the apps, and we're gonna be placing 12 different parlays on a college football Saturday. And it's not necessarily the big money there, but it's kind of that sense of filling it with something else, that if we're not necessarily getting drunk on this football Saturday, that we've got this.
It is seeking feelings. It is seeking feeling of being alive and excitement. That's what it is. It's needing to feel strongly in any way, shape, or form we can.
Yeah. And that was a pretty immediate one, and one that I noticed pretty quickly as I was going on the apps and doing that much more frequently than I was before. And as I kind of became more conscious about that, I eventually came to the realization that we'd done a little bit of just replacement, right? Instead of it being getting drunk, it was riding through a gambling.
Was that an immediate thing, or was it 6 months into the journey, or how quickly did that addiction?
That was about 6 hours into the journey.
Wow. Okay, so you stopped and then you started.
That was a pretty quick one. Yeah, I mean, being left to find other ways to entertain ourselves, that became one that was pretty regular.
And did you have to go through and stop that too, or reduce it, or was it nope, this is the same thing, I'm going to cut that one too?
That one as I've evolved around this, and this kind of comes to what we talked about around the awareness that we've developed around kind of this addictive tendency and these ways to cope with them. That one I've not cut off entirely, but I've done a much better job of limiting and doing only when, within reason, versus just filling a hole.
I want to speak to this. I've been in this recovery world. I'm in a 12-step group and have given testimonies about this. I want to speak to this like all or none concept. In some instances, when you really have a problem with a substance or a behavior, it needs to be cut off entirely. People that can't just have one drink because it turns into many, like can't drink, period, because their body, again, responds differently to one drink and it's not enough and they can't stop. Other people can. This idea of cutting off everything that could be addictive in nature is not sustainable, right? Sober living doesn't mean not having fun. It doesn't mean not enjoying, maybe some addictive type of behaviors. Exercise for me, I just signed up for a triathlon. It's very addictive behavior and it's a healthy one. But I also have my vices that maybe aren't so healthy, like weed. So I stopped smoking weed when I got sober, but I go to concerts and I'll have a gummy. I'll never have a lot of gummies, but I'll have 5 milligrams, and it's like a little bit of an edge in a couple drinks. Okay. But that's not my problem. Me going to a concert, once a month with my wife and loosening up in a safe environment where I'm not driving, there is nothing wrong with that. But if I can't have weed, then there is. If I can't drink, then there is. What I don't do is look at pornography, because that's the thing that is the main addiction. So it's very much, when you're talking about substituting or replacing addictions, like it's about keeping the main thing off. And you said it's been 18 months now since you refrained from alcohol, and that's sobriety, right? So it's not being sober from all things. And I just want to emphasize that, because having a healthy relationship with substance means using it in moderation, like not daily, maybe not even weekly, but occasionally. So if you want to go wine tasting with your partner, there ain't nothing wrong with that, right? It's if you have a problem and you rely on it daily, or you do it, most importantly, in secret. If you do something in secret and carry shame about it, that's when it's a problem. Anything you're ashamed of, anything you're doing alone to cope, major problem. I would never take weed alone or take a gummy alone or even drink alone. I do it with my wife, and that's something that we enjoy together in moderation, and 2 drinks max. And the reason I don't do more than that is because I will feel sick the next day. I won't sleep as well. My Whoop scores will be impacted, and I won't be able to exercise the next morning. So it's like, it's a values thing, where 2 and through makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't mean you have to stop everything entirely. You just need to stop the thing that is getting in the way of you living your best life. So I appreciate you bringing that and being honest about, hey, I haven't cut off gambling entirely, but it's not a daily thing anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the alone thing. I mean, that going back to kind of what the triggering of this whole thing was there was a real element of doing, I would say, more than half of this consumption of alcohol, but alone, right? Like, and that kind of being the trigger to understand, and for those that may be in that position, to be aware of it and acknowledge that's something that one, a lot of us struggle with, but 2, I think, is a big trigger to raising this awareness and identifying other ways to fill that. That was a big one for me as well.
Yeah.
Was doing that by myself.
It's so true. Like when I used to go to strip clubs, I'd go to Dreamforce and I'd be entertaining clients. At the end of the day, I'd sneak off, to go to a strip club by myself. Like, it's like that dirty secret, or that thing you're doing that you don't want other people to know about. I think that's a huge part of it, is like, what are you doing that no one knows about that helps you feel good, that like you wouldn't share with your children or your wife or your partner, right? And those are the things, like, that's when you know you have a problem, is when you're hiding these behaviors. And if you're open about it and you're good with how you're doing, go do you. Nothing wrong with that. So I hope this is speaking to some people who might be, struggling with whatever it could be. Let's talk about your replacement activities. So you got sober on your own. Most people need recovery. They need a 12-step group. They need a sponsor. They need therapy. But you're the only person I've ever met, brother, who has been able to do this on your own. And what you told me a few weeks ago is, you know what, Ian, I think the way I'm living now, everyone should live this way. And I probably want to share more of it, because I'm so happy with who I am and how I live my life. So I want you to touch on, like, a way to touch on that a little bit more and share kind of why you're so happy and what your life looks like and maybe what your operating rhythm is or what your day-to-day operating model that you've kind of refined over the past 18 months for people who maybe want to do it on their own and don't think recovery's for them or 12-step groups.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the uniqueness of of kind of the path here, and I certainly don't want to frame this as anything special or anything
It's
that
pretty
other,
special, brother.
that
That's why
other
you're
folks
talking to me right
that,
now.
that other folks don't have the capacity to do. But I think for me it has been kind of the ultimate unlock for me as somebody who a lot of what caused these problems in the first place was me being a very thoughtful, very thoughtful person and introspective, and not always in the most positive way possible. And the amount of self doubt that it's caused, and the amount of anxiety, and the amount of depression, and snowballing of kind of mental challenge that you've put on yourself, just through these behaviors and kind of what that's built up over the years. I think the biggest unlock is kind of the freedom and the clarity to go about your day to day, kind of released from all of that. I was telling my wife the other day that we went to a party and we showed up the next morning, and like it was a big sports day for my kids, and like just how great it felt to be able to get up at 8 a.m. and like be really excited to go to the first 8 a.m. game, and then have a full day of stuff with my kids, and then going to dinner with my family, and having that mindset versus having the mindset of like, I'm beat up and I feel like hell and I'm just trying to make it through this. I think that is the biggest unlock that this has done for me, and the biggest shift that it's made, kind of in the way that I view my personal life and my social life, and kind of how I treat myself, both internally and externally. Is it gives me free reign to kind of do whatever I want whenever I want, without having to hold myself back. And that's the piece that I could probably speak the most directly to, and that I'm the most.
So it's appreciating what's already in front of you.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that really what it is? It's a
yeah,
presence thing?
yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's and this is kind of a reference to the sales world that we live in. It's always trying to get to what's next, right? You're never really stopping to to enjoy the successes that you've built up and the work that you've put in to get to that point, right? We find that a lot in our professional lives, where we're trying to hit the next promotion or hit the next number or hit the next income level. But I think that creeps into your personal life as well. And especially when you're distracted by other things, it's not necessarily having the ability to slow down and say, "Hey, I've got a great community. I've got a great group of friends. I've got a great wife. I've got great kids. I've got a great family," and do that, with an open with an open mind and an ability to incorporate that. So I think that's been the biggest one. And then the second one is it's really unlocked other things that are constructive for me, that I really love doing. Like, I coached my kids' little league team this spring and had a great time. I mean, I think it was, the community was great. My son had a great time. Like, that's something I would have never done if if I was too tied up in my own world and my own needs. That the ability to think outwardly and think about conversations like this one, and ways that we can impact other people, has been a huge unlock and a huge way for me to kind of take my mindset to the next level.
If you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be the very best in tech sales. You want to grow, earn more money, and perform at your full potential. You hear the guest speaking and you say, hey, if they can do it, I know I can do it too. But here's the thing. Every guest that you hear made a critical decision before they got the results. They decided to invest in themselves and hire me as their sales coach. If you're not getting the results that you want, and you know you're capable of more, I'm offering a free strategy call to all my listeners. Visit untapyoursalespotential.com/podcast to book your free strategy call today. I'll see you on the inside. how did you unlock going from being in your head, beating yourself up, always like putting this pressure on yourself to be more and to achieve more in your personal and professional life, to being grateful and present with what you have and pouring into that?
It became a very intentional, routine based thing for me. We talk about it all the time. In the morning, you talk about three things you want to do today, and then at night, you talk about three things that went well. Every morning, I talk about something I want to do professionally, something I want to do personally, and something I want to do with my family, and just anchoring to that as a way to keep positive keep positive thoughts going through and always have something good that we can anchor on at the end of the day, has been a huge way from this.
Okay, so you wake up in the morning and you set three intentions: one for work, one for your personal or yourself, and then one is with your family.
That's right.
And you
That's
do
right.
that every day.
I do. I do.
Do you do the three things?
Not always, but at the end of the day, I find three things that did happen that I did do that I can be proud of, and that I can pat myself on the back about.
This idea I got from Dan Sullivan. We actually talked about it at the mastermind, in the fall mastermind last year, which was this 3 and 3. And there's a great book called The Gap and the Gain. For anyone who struggles with beating themselves up or not celebrating wins or not appreciating what they have, this book is a game changer. And Dan Sullivan is I'm part of his coaching program right now called Strategic Coach. And The Gap and the Gain is the book. But it's this concept of 3 and 3. And it's at the end of each night, right? You look back on your day and you share 3 wins, or you write down 3 wins from the day. And at the second part of this is you set your intention for the next day, which is set 3 wins that you want for the next day. And those become the things that actually you do. He even has an app called Win Streak to be able to log these wins. But the idea is that you're celebrating your success rather than beating yourself up over your shortcomings or failures. So is that the practice that you've been doing specifically since our mastermind, or were you already doing that from
That's what
before?
I've been doing. No, that's that. I mean, I picked that one up. Just that's the current model right now, is focusing on that, and we've done that for the better part of the past year. But I think that it's evolved, right? It's evolved as I've gotten more comfortable with myself, and this has been a multi-year journey, and will continue to be for the rest of our lives, around getting comfortable with ourselves and the way that we treat ourselves and the way we treat the people who are most important to us. And that's an anchor that I use today, that like you said, we've done some work on, but those are the things I use that really make me grateful for where we are.
What else are some of your habits and practices that have shifted? Um, I'll say your mindset, but mindset it's not the right word. It's really shifted your energy. It shifted your joy. It shifted your life, not just your mind.
I have gotten very into doing a lot of. I didn't stretch for the first 35 years of my life. I was an athlete that was coordinated and didn't need to stretch. But I've discovered doing yoga and doing different forms of just meditation to just reset your body and reset your breath work. So I stretch every day. I do breath work every day. I sit in the sauna every day, and I sit in the steam room every day. And those are
Wow.
like physically non-negotiables for me at this point. My wife makes fun of me because I belong to a place, and the only thing I use it for is the sauna and the steam room. But it is a it is a physical reset that I do almost on a daily basis. That is done with the intention to balance myself and get myself in a state
So
where I can.
what does that routine look like? Like when you wake up, do you exercise? Do you then do breath work, yoga? I want people to you're not drinking anymore. You're not gambling as much, whatever. Like you said replacement, but I want you to get really tactical around like what your
Yeah,
daily routine looks like.
Yeah, for me, it's a late in the day activity. It's the time of the day when historically we would find ourselves at the bar or find ourselves drinking or find ourselves doing something that we are distracting ourselves from the rest of the evening. So it's that 3 to 5 p.m. We're talking on a Friday right now. Like this is the window where we'd be in danger. We'd be
This
in
is
the
the
danger
danger
zone,
zone
right?
right now.
That 3 to 5 Friday afternoon. Like I've spent 15 years doing the same thing at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, right?
You know what
And
I
it,
do at my 3 o'clock in the Friday afternoon?
not,
I
and
catch up on my 12-week year if there's not enough check marks. And this is like my most productive because I feel guilty about
we
wasting time early in the
no,
week.
we've both evolved. We've both evolved from from what we used to do at 3. But to your question, like it's that window for me. It's a tactical. This is where I would be doing something that I know I'm bored and I should not be. I'm gonna go sit in the sauna for 15 minutes. I'm gonna do steam for 15, and I'm going to either go do yoga or I'm gonna stretch for 15, and then
After
after
the
that,
steam room in the sauna or before?
before. So I flip so you start with the stretching. I either go to class or I do it on my own. And then I do the sauna and the steam, and usually by that point I've reset to the point where I'm prepared to go
Oh,
home and be with my family and have an
interesting.
evening with them. So
So,
it's
so
usually good to know right here.
you're literally talking about a physiological change in your body state. So this antsiness, this boredom, this restlessness, it's called the RIDS. I think in addiction. It's like restless, irritable, distracted. Those are kind of the triggers that lead to wanting to change that state. I'm feeling restless. I'm feeling it's. I just call it my addict when he comes out. But you're saying when you recognize this period to be the early afternoon, you'd feel that way after a long day at work, and that's when you'd end up drinking. And now you just automatically during that time turn it into like a wellness spa or just your own like
I,
literally breath work, meditation, yoga. I mean that's
I,
pretty.
I've
Yeah,
Frankenstein together a wellness spa for me, but yes, those are the
well, that's what
those are
it
the
is.
things that
Steam room, sauna, yoga, stretching. I mean, it sounds like a wellness center that you
those are the things like when that boredom kicks in and you're kind of like, I gotta do something to scratch the itch a little bit here. It's gotten pretty effective.
do you
And
weight lift or do cardiovascular or just yoga and stretching.
I used to do a lot of that, and I used to be very into doing the CrossFit and being very into how much weight we lift and how fast we run and all that. And we've all gotten a little bit older and had other priorities and other things going on where it's not the non-negotiable it once was. I mean, I do it. I stay in shape by exercising a fair amount, but compared to the breath work and making sure we are prepared to be with our family at the end of the day, it's takes a backseat.
Yeah, I love that. So you get there and then you spend the rest of the night with the family after the afternoon routine.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
is that daily for you?
it's pretty close. It depends a little bit on the schedule and what what else we've got going on. But when I create my day, which I like to do from time to time, which is how can we make this the best day we can? There's a window in there to kind of have this, in your words, wellness trip,
Yeah.
late afternoon to reset a little bit.
I think that people it's interesting. I don't want to like judge. I'm not going to judge, but I would say the vast majority of people are so busy grinding away and working really hard that their belief is that they're not allowed to take time, an hour. I mean, how long does the whole stretch, yoga, steam room, sauna take? Just
It's
speak
an hour. It's an hour. It's an hour.
probably at least, I'm guessing. I'm including the drive there, drive back.
Well, yeah. It's been
Changing.
hour and a half, probably.
Hour and a
Yeah.
half. Okay. So there's a belief for many people that this is going to pull you away from the you know from the work or from the family or whatever, and that's the first thing to go is that self-care time. But what I found is that if I don't do the self-care time, I don't work effectively. I don't show up effectively, and I'm just like restless and irritable. So I need that time, whether it's a morning run for, three, 4 miles, or whether it's prayer, or whether it's journaling. I don't have a set, 4-step routine, but I definitely have a list of tools that I pick from and use. And if I don't do those things, I fall back into, some of the old stinking thinking. What would you say regarding that? Like, do you notice, like, if you don't do those things, that you're going back to kind of some of that same um state that led to you drinking in the past?
I sense that a little bit. I think there's this hole, for better or worse, that has been created by reducing kind of this dependency that I had for so long. And the best thing I can do is to fill that hole with something that is that serves me in a way that is productive, whether it's exercise or spending time with my community or spending time with my family. And this is just one pretty tactically that I have realized is a pretty good way to fill that hole. It's a pretty good way of kind of reinvesting in something that serves us almost 100% of the time. You will feel better after you spend an hour trying to
You
get yourself.
cannot feel shitty if you're in the sauna and the steam room
Impossible.
and you've stretched. Like,
Impossible.
you will not. It does not. I love freaking cold plunging and saunas. I love them, and I could spend hours in there. And whenever we go on vacation, I do.
And we talk about, all the stuff we do with the masterminds and all that. And I say with 100% conviction, like my favorite parts are like when we do the breath work and the stuff
Mhm.
like this that gets me in a state where I can consume the other stuff and we can do the work together. And that's something that I've learned is very, very critical to the way I've built this operating system,
Mhm.
and the way I've built out how I want to be with those that are most important to me. So, yeah, it's schedule schedule dependent. It is as close to a non-negotiable as I have from a wellness perspective in my day to day, and it's easy, right? I think everybody can find a way to incorporate some of this, and they will feel better at the end of holding themselves to it.
I agree. So tell me about your family time. What does that look like?
Family time, well, family time is a little bit different now. We're in the summer. My wife is a high school teacher, so our schedule's a little bit different at different times of the year. But for me, I after 5 o'clock, this is one of my non-negotiables is that is family time at our house until the kids go to bed, which is about 8 o'clock, and that's kind of that sacred window where we are with the family, we're eating dinner, we are either playing sports, we're out in the backyard, we're spending as much quality time with them as we can, because that's kind of the A time. That's peak hours for us. So for us in my house, that's that's where we have probably the most special time. Um, for me, we've talked about this. I think I put the kids to bed every night, and they're starting to realize that I'm running out of stories to tell them and running out of ways to put them to bed. But like that is a staple of my day. I do it almost every day, and that
Beautiful.
bedtime and that kind of tying together of
Cool.
of everything that we've done for ourselves, as well as all the things we've done for our family, is something that is really, really special to me, and something that I wouldn't sacrifice for anything. So I'd say that those sacred hours, once I've reset following kind of that wellness motion, is when we are really, really present as a family around kind of dinner time.
And then what happens after 8 p.m. when the kids are down, or 9, whatever they go to bed?
Yeah, then it's my time with my wife, which I've gotten very intentional about as well, is that it's the work. The work is not necessarily what at sometimes in the past that has been what is prioritized after 8 o'clock, is catching up on stuff and getting ready for the next work day. But after 8 o'clock in our house, that's my wife and my time. And yeah, we've gotten so much better at just communicating, right back to what we started this conversation about, with not having drinks during the day and not being distracted and being able to communicate clearly and well with each other. It's gotten so much easier to do that with with your full attention and your full ability to do so.
Do you
So
just sit and talk to her? You guys like watch shows, or what do you, I mean, what is,
we watch TV, we figure out what we're gonna do tomorrow, we figure out, how we can communicate better. It's a whole it's a whole range of different things
he loves that.
when we go through our mutual action plan for the next day, right? Like I kid a little bit, but
My wife, like, she's like, stay away. Like, she goes in bed and she got her TV on, like, go, honey. It's like, get away. It's my time. She's like so tired. She'll just want to
yeah,
veg
no,
out. Like,
there-
we just veg out.
there's elements of that as well, but it is for the most part dedicated time that we spend together and are able to be present with each other at a level to the point earlier that wasn't really part of our relationship until the last couple of years here.
So was spirituality a component of you getting sober too in any capacity?
I think there was a spiritual sense of kind of just wanting to present myself in the way that people would want to be around. There was kind of this element of being the best version of yourself you can be.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I don't know if that's a spirituality in the conventional sense, but if for me, that's kind of I have this greater belief that I am capable of being a version of myself I haven't reached yet, and that's kind of where
I
I
think,
anchor around how to build myself out.
I think, there's a moral compass element to spirituality, which is informed directly by God and God's word, in terms of how to live as a good person, do unto others kindness, love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, if you are religious, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're not religious and you have this inner compass of telling you this is right, this is wrong, even like temper, I just blew up and that didn't feel right. Like that's coming from somewhere. So I do
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it is a spiritual component when you think about like there's something guiding me in terms of how I'm supposed to show up.
yeah,
Because otherwise, what would it be? What's guiding you? Otherwise, you can just go lie, cheat, and insult people and just, kill yourself with booze. But there's something saying, I have bigger purpose for you. And that voice I call God. But it's this guiding truth of what we're meant for a better purpose than what we're currently doing. And I don't know. I think it's
yeah.
spiritual.
I think the biggest, to turn it into a kind of a physical ramification here is that um, just the way that I'm able to sleep at night at this point in kind of my journey here versus I mean I had problems sleeping for a decade probably, right? Of just the stress from work and stress from the additional stress I'm putting on myself by what I'm putting on my body and how I'm feeding it to the way I'm able to at the end of the day, count off the three things that we won with and spend time with the kids and spend time with my wife. And it's been a dramatic difference in the way I'm able to rest and recover. And took me a long time to figure out the value of that. But that's I think as big a element of this as anything is the ability
It
to
is. It's
rest, wake up in
absolutely
a place
treating your
that
body like a temple. And again,
yeah,
I'm Christian. I'll be the first one to quote scripture, but the Bible, 1 Corinthians 3:16-17 says, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's spirit dwells in your midst? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred and you together are that temple."
yeah,
It's literally saying your body is God's creation, and if you poison it and pollute it, you are destroying what God gave you that's sacred.
Yeah.
Yet
No,
more spiritual than taking care of your body, your sleep, and I think that you don't have again, you don't have to be religious to live in a way that brings so much joy and glory to God by how you live and how you treat people and how you treat yourself. And I see that with you, Ed.
yeah. No, it's you know, and we're kind of thinking through this in real time here of the different things that have stood out to me and been elements of kind of this shift here. But yeah, that's as big a one as any as we've talked about here is the ability to go to bed at night thinking that you've done what you said you were going to do, not necessarily from a 8 to 5 perspective, but the way you've shown up for yourself and the way you've shown up for your family, just as important.
Amen to that. How do you talk about the clarity you feel? The clarity day to day in terms of like your ability to think or be sharp or be attuned because you're not physically, because you're better rested and you're not physically poisoning yourself. And I'll just call it what it is. I'm not, again, I'm not, alcohol is poison, and in moderation, it's not as poisonous, but ultimately, if you're drinking every day, in quantity, you're poisoning your body. So what's the before and after, like, mental clarity that you feel, that mental, like, sharpness, if you can just describe it?
Yeah, I think the before is a little bit of a challenge because I didn't really know anything else
You're
other than
living in fog, essentially.
pushing myself to the physical and psychological limits to just kind of muscle up and get through it. And that was kind of the approach that we had until we've evolved here in the last couple of years. I think for me, it's the ability to put myself in other people's shoes
Mm,
has evolved dramatically.
mm,
I mean, for my wife is a primary example of we'll have an argument and we'll have a disagreement about something, and my ability to take a deep breath and think, why would she feel the way that she does about this versus turning this into a immediate us versus them scenario. I think has been the most direct way that this clarity has impacted my life. Of course, in business, it's helped a little bit as well, as far as when we're talking to our customers and we're trying our best to understand why they're talking to us and what their perspective is. I mean, that's always been something I've taken pride in, but I think that's evolved as well. But I think more so with my personal life of how I'm able to think a little bit broader about, okay, it's possible that she's had a bad day at work herself, and I didn't listen the first time we talked about this, and she's got a really high stress thing the next day, and those thoughts able to enter my mind and impact the way I communicate has been something that has been really noticeable for me, and something I've been really aware of as far as how I can communicate better and how that clarity has allowed me to do that versus being very inward focused on me, me, me. I'm just trying to get through the day and try again tomorrow has been a pretty clear example.
well, addiction is very self-centered.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way we think, the way it's all about you. But when you get out of your own way and out of your own head, you could actually focus on what's in front of you and other people and care more. And it feels a lot better to give than to receive.
And potentially an even larger one of that I'm thinking about now is um, kind of preparing my kids for this level of this level of mental battle ahead of them, right? I'm very conscious of the possibility that this being a genetic trait, right, and something that my kids are going to have to deal with at some point, and
Yeah.
position this in a way that they are well prepared for it, and present myself and communicate with them in a way that I would want to be communicated with as an 8 or a 6-year-old, and being really, really clear about how I do that to try and protect them in a way from some of the struggles that we've gone through bring us to adulthood. So that's another big one for me that I'm super aware of now.
Well, you're breaking the generational curse of addiction that has likely been in your family, and there's a great phrase, "It ran in my family until it ran into me." And I
Yeah.
just love, like, you being the chain breaker, for whatever, because yes, genetically it could be passed down, but it will be passed down if they, have an alcoholic father that they're exposed to, and you made a lot of these changes when your kids are 3 and 5, they're not they're not inheriting that because you did the work that, you know, I know I'm doing the work my father didn't do.
Yeah.
And my kids won't have to do because I did it. So it stops with you.
Yeah. I think that's a huge anchor for I mean, anybody out there is kind of turning it kind of as how you would want to be viewed as a child, and the types of communication and types of interactions that we have, like that's something that I take a lot of thought in, and I think really has been a shift for me.
And this is a somewhat loaded question. I mean, this is the Untap Your Sales Potential podcast, and we do highlight these transformation stories. And like I said, we've been heavily indexed towards a bunch of high earning sellers, and I just think this work you've done is going to change your family generations, your marriage, everything. I think it's just as important, if not much more important than transforming how you sell, is transforming how you live. But for people that may not see the connection, like, what does this have to do with Untap Your Sales Potential? And I guess, how did this program even, like, we mentioned the 3 and 3, some of the tools, but like, how did this align with your membership in Untap to the decision to get sober?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I've had a long career in sales, and it's been a linear progression for me. I mean, I year over year would make more money year over year for about 12 years in a row, and it was a straight line up. And then a couple of years, it wasn't necessarily that, and I really started to question, okay, am I good at this? Is it me? Is it something else? Is it something I totally haven't even accounted for? And that's where I started thinking, okay, maybe we do some more work on ourselves. Maybe we figure out exactly how we can improve ourselves to put ourselves in the best position to do so. Because maybe it's something I'm doing that's limiting me from reaching my professional potential. So that's what drew me to kind of this type of development in the first place. And I think what has been the biggest unlock is kind of what we've talked about for the last hour here, is giving me the ability to detach a little bit from being that linear year over year performance number, and dwell on things that dwell is not the right word there, but focus on things that are equally, if not more important to us in this stage of life. I mean, I'm going to have a quota for the next 15 years, probably. I've got, I don't know, 4 to 6 years left of my kids actually listening to me and wanting to be around me, right? And kind of
Amen.
putting in that
Yeah.
perspective of where the work today means the most, I think has been the biggest. And from a professional standpoint, I've had a couple good years since we joined, and find myself in a position where I'm able to be the version of myself in front of my customers that I want to be. Whether or not that yields immediate year over year growth remains to be seen. I'm pretty confident it will, but I think the bigger item there is the version of myself that I can bring professionally and
Yeah.
and personally. That's kind of come out of this. That's
Yeah.
title.
And again, I get all this. I was an addict big time. And I think the single thing, like, I can emphasize, or two things, is number one is, like, you have to know your worth outside of your work. You have to know you're worthy outside of your work. So being proud of how you're living and not being in that shame cycle of like, because if you're just relying on your identity and your worth being tied to your performance, you're going to have a lot of visits to the bar, or you're going to have a lot of roller coaster emotionally. But if you know your worth is grounded in who you are because of how you treat people, because of how you treat yourself and your body, you got to have things you're proud of outside of your performance, because your performance will fluctuate if you work in sales, just because the market fluctuates and territories fluctuate and quotas fluctuate. So I see that lot with that with you. I see you being proud of how you're showing up as a husband and a father. And the second thing is having purpose, right? Having purpose outside of just your performance, right? Your purpose was to get sober. Your purpose was to be able to do things that made you feel good in those replacement activities, the health. Your purpose is to be the best version of yourself. So I think having that purpose and knowing your worthiness are foundationally things you need to do to not feel in a way that is worthless, that leads to these escapism and addictive behaviors. Would you add anything to that, or agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's the ability to I know, and we say detach a lot, but the ability to separate who I am as a person and the value I bring to my community and the people I care about the most, from what happens at my job, and how I do that is an unlock I think all of us should experience at some point in our life, because it is the most liberating thing you'll ever feel.
100%. Boring is beautiful. But I say
It's a-
boring is beautiful. You know what I'm doing after this? I'm going to go to dinner. We're going to have a family date night. Then we're going to go watch the sunset on the beach, and we're going to sit and we're going to just be as a family. And it's like the best thing ever. It's so boring, but it's so beautiful. I say that kindly, but what I mean is relative to like the intoxication of performance chasing, or physically escaping with alcohol or drugs or whatever. It feels physically boring, but it's beautiful. And it's like you replace these addictive behaviors with things that connect you to others and to yourself and to your soul and to God. And that's the answer. It's addition by subtraction. You subtract the unhealthy behavior, leaves a void. You fill that void with healthy, connective, and soul and life-giving activities. That is what we teach in the program. It's actually a whole module called addition by subtraction, and you've done it. And I'm proud of
yeah.
you. Again, it's beautiful. We're coming up on time. I have two more quick questions for you. One is, what's next? I mean, you just renewed, and you and I have talked about this, but what are you focused on for the next year? What is the next level for you, Ed, of this growth journey that you're on?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I think for me there's a maintenance element of this. We've talked a little bit about kind of this huge transformation that we've been through over the last 2 to 3 years, where we've cut out parts of our life that were really uh, that were really not constructive. I think the reality is the addition by subtraction. At some point, you reach a point where you're pretty comfortable with everything that you're doing, and there's not a whole lot more that can be subtracted to make yourself a little bit better. So I think that's kind of where we're at from that standpoint. For me, I've been really pleased with getting involved a little bit more in my local community, and being part of some dads groups and being part of some stuff in our community, where sharing this story and sharing the ability to go through this. I think the reality is more people are feeling this than necessarily even give themselves the opportunity to think. And I think just sharing that this is something that we all go through, and there's elements of this that we can improve day over day, and put ourselves in a better position to treat ourselves and our family and our customers and our work, is something that I'm prepared to take to the next level, and continue to share with others. I mean, even talking to you about this is something that I'm proud of, and would love to continue to learn from others who are in similar places. Like this is super invigorating.
I see it and I feel it, and it's why I wanted you on the podcast, because I do believe this is a story that will help a lot of people. And the way you talk about it openly without shame and with really proud of like the changes you've made and this new transformation it is gonna help a lot of people. And I see that for you too. And I think it's if people struggle or want to talk to you, would you be willing to, to talk to people? And if so, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Just if anyone resonates and they just want to have a one-off conversation, if they need some support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having an outlet to talk about this kind of stuff without a lot of pressure aligned to it is is something we all we all would appreciate it. I would be happy and willing to talk to whoever any part of this story resonated with. You can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me a note, or Ian. I think we can probably do something through the community. But I am happy and willing to have this kind of conversation with any dads or anybody with kids or anybody in a sales motion where they kind of feel trapped. I'm super proud of the possibilities.
Well, I love the unlock. And I'd like to end this with something that we haven't done before in the show, but it feels right to do it with you. I'd love you to share just what you're grateful for in this day, June 26th, when we're recording this, with everyone, and I'll do the same thing, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's Friday. It is a beautiful week in California here. I've got my kids. I'm gonna go pick up my kids. We're gonna go on a bike ride. We're gonna get ice cream. We're gonna have a great Friday evening. We've got a fun weekend ahead. My kids are playing sports all weekend. I've got my mom and dad who are gonna be in town for it. So there's three generations of family that'll be involved. So just the ability to spend time with my family and I'm grateful for this conversation as well and having the opportunity to talk through this and hopefully impact a few people out there. So those are all great ways to end a great week here.
Beautiful, man. Well, I'm grateful for you and for you sharing your story. And it does give meaning and purpose to the work that we do here and the work I do, to know that other people can have the same type of personal transformation. So thank you for the work you've done. And I'm more grateful for your family and how they're going to benefit from this version of you. And I just see it in your face and it makes me happy. I'm grateful for my wife and my children. I'm about to go to a very nice meal and watch the sunset. And tomorrow we'll be enjoying The Roots and Nas and T.I. to go to a concert, see hip hop at the Hollywood Bowl. And on Sunday we'll be at my uncle's 80th birthday party. And we're surrounded by family. And I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the triathlon I'm going to start training for, and I'm grateful to have love and joy in my life and be around good people and to be able to show up fully for them. So thank you for coming on, man. And yeah, really appreciate everything you shared today. Hope everyone enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.